The regular meeting of the Aurora City Council for Monday, September 12th, 2022 is called to order. Would the clerk please read the roll?
Mayor Kaufman.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen.
Here.
Councilmember Coombs.
Present.
Councilmember Gardner.
Here.
Councilmember Drinsky.
Here.
Councilmember Lawson.
Here.
Councilmember Marcano.
Present.
Councilmember Medina.
Here.
Councilmember Murillo. Councilmember Sundberg.
Here.
And Councilmember Zvonek.
Here.
There's a quorum.
I'd like to do a moment of silence for the Arvada police officer, Michael Dylan Vakoff, who was killed early Sunday morning while trying to intervene in a domestic violence dispute. And it's really, this tragic incident really brings home the sacrifices that our men and women who serve in the Aurora Police Department and all of our first responders make for us every day to protect us and keep our communities safe. Please join me in a moment of silence.
El Consejo Municipal de la Ciudad de Aurora da la bienvenida a la opinión de sus habitantes.
Music hold ended.
Announcement of the public call-in line.
Mayor, it looks like they're having some difficulties. We can come back to that.
I'm sorry.
It looks like they're having some difficulties with the call-in line. Can we come back to that?
Well, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. During executive session, we discussed matters of pending litigation. Approval of the minutes for August 22nd, 2022. The motion.
Mayor,
Councilmember Marcano.
move to approve 6A.
It's moved by Councilmember Marcano, seconded by
Bergen.
Mayor Pro Tem Bergen to approve the minutes of August 22nd, 2022. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, call for the question on the approval of the minutes.
Mayor Kaufman.
Mayor votes yes.
Councilmember Drinsky and Sundberg, we need your votes.
Yes.
The motion passes to adopt the August 22nd, 2022 meeting minutes.
We have 3 proclamations today. First proclamation is for the School of Breaking Day, the School of Breaking Day, and somebody representing the school here tonight. Please come forward. Oh, go ahead and join me. Will you get a demonstration first? No, sorry. Okay, this is about breaking. Yes. I'm a graduate of the program. I've been asked to guide students of all ages to express their unique abilities and personalities through dance and hip-hop culture. And whereas providing quality art and physical education programs to thousands of youth, School of Breaking has collaborated with 7 major Colorado school districts, including Aurora Public Schools, as well as multiple and varied foundations, scholarship programs, nonprofits, recreation, and cultural centers in Colorado, including the I Have a Dream Foundation, Boys and Girls Clubs of America, and the YMCA. And whereas School of Breaking co-founder and co-owner Chase Everett, a 2020 U.S. Department of State, UNC Chapel Hill, and Meridian International Center sponsored Next Level Hip Hop Cultural Ambassador, comprises his business of locally, nationally, and internationally renowned performers, competitive dancers, and teaching artists. His competitive breaking team, the Schoolyard Scrappers, has members nationally ranked in the 2022 USA Dance Incorporated, World Dance Sport Federation Breaking Division, and whereas for 10 years, School of Breaking has exemplified and taught crucial life skills, including discipline, imagination, originality, respect, and unconditional love to its students in Aurora and beyond, while providing a much-needed art service to its communities. Now, therefore, I, Mike Coffin, Mayor of the City of Aurora, Colorado, do hereby proclaim September 20th, 2022 as School of Breaking Day, in witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Aurora, Colorado to be affixed on this first day of September 2022. Mike Coffin, Mayor, Aurora, Colorado. Who are you going to do?
Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. It's been a long road, a lot of hard work and dedication, and just providing proper service to the community and the youth, and just expressing ourselves as artists. And thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to continue our journey and spread the love to the community.
Well, thank you. Thank you for all you do.
Do we get a demonstration?
Demo?
Demo? We want to dance?
Drop that beat, Curtis.
POW MIA Recognition Day, minute of silence. Who do we have representing our veterans here? Okay. Whereas on August 18th, 1978, Congress, by a joint resolution approved, called on the President to issue a proclamation asking the people of the United States to observe POW MIA Recognition Day, a day to honor the sacrifices of American prisoners of war, Americans missing in action and their families, and whereas since President Carter issued the first POW MIA Recognition Day proclamation on June 4th, 1979, every president has declared a period on that day that the people of the United States might unite and honor the sacrifices of more than 138,000 POWs and 81,600 MIAs and their families, and whereas our nation endures and flourishes because of the piety of our servicemen and women who from years and generations have been accountable for our national security for over 2 centuries, and whereas the City of Aurora would like to enhance the observation of POW MIA Day by designated September 16, 2022 at 3 p.m. as a time to remember and appreciate prisoners of war, those missing in action, and their families whose extreme sacrifice has sustained our nation and preserved our liberties and freedoms. Now, therefore, I, Michael Kaufman, Mayor of the City of Aurora, Colorado, do hereby proclaim September 16, 2022 at 3 p.m. as POW MIA Recognition Day, minute of silence, and encourage the residents of Aurora to pause for a minute of silence to honor, reflect, and remember the precious lives lost while in service to the nation. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Aurora, Colorado to be affixed on this first day of September 2022. In my coffin, Mayor, Aurora, Colorado. Thank you so much for all your involvement in this one.
Mayor and council, thank you very much for passing this proclamation. The Veterans Affairs Commission of the City of Aurora accepts this on behalf of the POWs, the MIAs, and their families, and the sacrifices that they've made. And we hope that you will join us on September 16th at 3 o'clock local time and take a minute of silence to remember the tens of thousands of people who have sacrificed for this country.
Thank you. Is there anybody here for Constitution Week? All right, please come down. Constitution Week. Whereas the Constitution of the United States of America, the guardian of our liberties, embodies the principles of limited government in a republic dedicated to the rule by law, and whereas September 17, 2022 marks the 255th anniversary, 235th, I'm going to get the glasses on. 235th anniversary of the framing of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention, and whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and to patriotic celebrations which will commemorate it, and whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designating September 17th to the 23rd as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, I, Mike Coffin, Mayor of the City of Aurora, Colorado, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th to 23rd, 2022 as Constitution Week, and ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideas of the framers of the Constitution had in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through the guardian of our liberties. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Aurora, Colorado to be affixed on this first day of September 2022. Thank you so much for all you do. Can you work?
Thank you. Thank you for recognizing this proclamation for Constitution Week. I'm with the Daughters of the American Revolution, the Tollgate Creek chapter in Aurora, and the Children of the American Revolution, the Delaney chapter is here too, and we just thank you for recognizing this. In 1955, the Daughters of the American Revolution petitioned Congress to set aside this week to honor our most cherished document. So thank you.
Thank you. I regret that I failed to bring the land acknowledgement, so I will, before this meeting ends, I will make sure that that is read. Public invited to be heard.
Mayor, we do have a few individuals in person. The first one is Ryan Miller, followed by Daryl Witherspoon.
Hello, my name is Ryan Miller. I actually am not a Aurora resident. I was at one point, but thank you to the City Council for taking time to hear our concerns. I'm Ryan Miller. This is Sean Kirby with Kirby's Roofing and Exteriors. We're here on behalf of the citizens of Aurora, in particular the residents of Southeast Aurora, regarding the hailstorm that occurred on July 26th that caused significant damage to numerous properties in the area located east of the Southlands Mall while dropping 1 inch plus hail and having damaging winds. Our main concern today is the allowance of repairs to damaged structures in the city of Aurora, with no requirement on how large the repair can be made. We respectfully request that the city please review these requirements, and as doing a repair over 25% of a roof surface will cause more damage to the existing roof and the underlying protection. Arapahoe County's current roofing code reads as follows. If repair or damaged area or replaced of existing roof exceeds 25% of the total roof surface area, the entire roof is to be replaced. The issue is causing insurance companies to take advantage of the lack of code requirements in Aurora, causing the homeowners to have to come out of their pocket with extra money to have to pay for their roofs to be replaced the correct way or to have their roof repaired and their manufacturer's warranty voided. We have multiple instances where the insurance companies have not covered the entire roof slope, and the end result is more damage than repair. In order to replace a single shingle, we have to break the seal on all the surrounding shingles with no guaranteeing them resealing and voiding their manufacturer's warranty. The end result is having multiple holes in the existing felt after removing the nails from the surrounding shingles that cannot be resealed, as well as loading 80-pound bundles and carrying the shingles across any shingled roof with a steep slope. Excess traffic will cause the felt to rip and more damage to the shingles and underlayment that remain. In short, there will be more damage than there was before the repair. We're just having a really hard time explaining to the residents and homeowners within the city limits that if they were to live a few miles south or east, their roof would be covered completely, as all of these homes have at least 75% of the roof that needs to be replaced. All we were asking is that this can please be reviewed by a licensed professional engineer and licensed and insured roofing consultant to correspond with the existing Arapahoe County codes in order to have the best practices in place for the homeowner and citizens of Aurora and their best interests in mind. We thank you again for your time, and please feel free to reach out to either one of us with any questions or concerns.
Thank you. Okay, if you could please forward the contact information to me, I would appreciate it.
Will do. Thank you.
Daryl Witherspoon, followed by Joyce Bradley. Daryl Witherspoon. Okay, Joyce Bradley. Okay, Joyce Walton. Yes.
Good evening to all the chamber, the members. The reason why I'm here is I've lived in the city of Aurora for 20 years. I'm 67, trying to retire from my job. I'm a registered voter, have been a registered voter since I was 18 years old. I'm proud of being a registered voter. I believe that my vote should count. But I was heartbroken when I heard that the council was going to bring back the cameras. Now, the citizens of Aurora voted those cameras out. So I feel like you all have made a decision where my vote and the citizens that voted these cameras out, it doesn't count. And I wanted to place my opinion on that. I was born in 1955. It was the Civil Rights Act. People died to get their votes. And so I want my vote to be counted. I don't want these cameras back in my neighborhood. And that's what I'm saying to you all. My vote should count in addition to everybody that voted these cameras out. That's all I have to say. I hope it be duly noted. But I'm not speaking for only me. I'm speaking for all the people that voted these cameras out.
Katie, please forward the contact information to me as well. Thank you.
Okay.
Katie, me as well.
Okay.
I'm Joyce Bradley.
Okay. Okay, we have Joyce Bradney. You can go ahead and speak. You're up.
Hello, I'm Joyce Bradney. I'm here because of the Aurora Jewel Wetland Park. For 36 years, I've cared for this park. In 1993, I led the effort to save the Jewel Wetlands from development and its creation as a park. Today, the park is threatened. A large group of homeless people have moved into the Jewel Wetland Butterfly Garden and the tree area of the wetland. Trees are cut down to accommodate their tents and personal items. They use the wetland as their personal toilet. I saw a man drop his pants 2 feet from the sidewalk and poop. Last Thursday, a stolen John Deere utility vehicle slid off a footpath into the creek. Parks, Rec, and Open Space brought in equipment and removed the vehicle. In the process of removing the UTV, a .38 pistol was found. There have been a minimum of 4 motorcycles entering the Butterfly Garden recently. They are there for a short time, then leave. I suspect they are drug dealers. Yesterday, while walking my dog, one of these motorcyclists drove into the Butterfly Garden. I videoed him. The rider got off his bike, verbally and physically threatened me. I was afraid. I pointed my pepper spray at him and tried calling 911. My hand was shaking such that I couldn't operate my phone. I pretended to speak to the operator. The rider got on the motorcycle and sped off. At that point, I am shaken and eager to get out of the garden. I noticed another woman walking through the Butterfly Garden. She said those people verbally abused her and, like me, was visibly shaken. We walked out together for our safety. Overland High School and Prairie Middle School use the wetland park for science curriculum and for sporting events. I let them know the Jewel Wetland is no longer safe. When I heard about Aurora's camping ban, I was thrilled. But it's not working. The camping has gotten worse. Campers vacate a site, then return. Aurora needs a different plan. We need more park rangers. I have cared for this wetland for 36 years and am now forced out for fear of my safety. Something has to be done.
Joyce, you've reached your
Thank you.
3 minutes. Thank you. Mayor, we do have one individual on the public call-in line.
Very well. Is there someone there?
Gardner with a no vote on November 2nd, 2020, which helped kill an increase in Aurora's minimum wage from $12 an hour in 2020 to $12.60 in 2021. Denver's minimum wage is currently $15.87 an hour. While Aurora's is $12. Yes.
Sorry,
What?
we need to have you start over. There was a technical problem, and your first minute and a half was heard by council.
Okay. Let me know when.
Go right ahead. You have 3 minutes.
We would like to honor and acknowledge the land on which we reside and join you from today as the traditional territory of the Ute, Cheyenne, and Arapaho peoples. We also acknowledge the 48 contemporary tribal nations that are historically tied to the lands that make up the state of Colorado. May this land acknowledgement honor elders past and present and be a step towards collaborative and accountable relationship building with the diverse and vibrant Native communities who make their home here today, as we continue working to amplify the voices of our Indigenous communities in our joint fight towards creating genuine equity and empowerment. For those of you who follow Councilman Gardner on Twitter, you may have noticed that his Labor Day posting included that he is in opposition to maintaining the minimum wage at what it is currently, which is $12.50 an hour. 56 cents an hour. I was surprised to see that because Councilman Gardner was a no vote on November 2nd, 2020, which helped to kill an increase in Aurora's minimum wage from $12 in 2020 to $12.60 in 2021. Denver's minimum wage is currently $15.87 an hour, while Aurora's is $12.56. In light of his Labor Day Twitter feed, perhaps Councilman Gardner would be willing to work with some of the other council members on a new ordinance to increase Aurora's minimum wage, particularly since more and more people are struggling to make ends meet. Aurora's motor vehicle theft ordinance is not worth the paper it is written on. It only pertains to misdemeanors. In 2021, APD reported 5,569 motor vehicle theft incidents and filed 382 motor vehicle theft charges in the city and district courts. In other words, roughly 7% of reported motor vehicle thefts resulted in charges. And I don't know how many of those were found guilty. Of those, about 1/3, or approximately 127, were heard in municipal court as misdemeanors. That equates to less than 2.3% of all motor vehicle thefts in Aurora in 2021 being tried as misdemeanors, the only classification of crimes that Aurora's new motor vehicle theft ordinance applies to. Prevention is worth an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of punishment. Aurora police have given out about 1,000 steering wheel
Only your
locks.
3 minutes are up.
If you didn't buy one of them, you can buy one of them, one for yourself for $30 to $40. Well worth the cost to help keep your vehicle from being stolen. Thank you.
That was the last individual.
Are there any members that wish to respond to
Mayor,
any of the
I'd like
speakers
the
tonight?
opportunity to respond.
Councilmember Gardner.
So I'm unclear what their confusion was. I previously voted against an increase in the minimum wage, and then on Labor Day, I made a post on Twitter saying the minimum wage should be abolished because it's bad economic policy and the laws of supply and demand are undefeated. So that's a pretty consistent position. I don't think the minimum wage should be increased. In fact, I think we should eliminate it completely. So I'm not sure what the confusion was on behalf of the caller, but that was my position.
Further comments? Let me make one. Joyce Bradney testified here today and on the wetlands that are truly extraordinary. One thing she did not mention, or two things actually. One is that I walked the property with her on Saturday and identified where we identified the encampment, and another two that I informed her today that it would be abated on Wednesday. So there are some things being done. We could always do more. Are there further comments? Seeing none, motion on the adoption of the agenda.
Mayor,
Mayor Pro Tem.
motion to adopt the agenda.
It's been moved by the Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by
Marcano.
Councilmember Marcano to adopt the agenda. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, call for the question on the adoption of the agenda.
Mayor Kaufman.
Mayor votes yes.
The motion passes to adopt the agenda.
Adoption of the consent calendar, item number 10A through 10K.
Mayor, motion to approve 10A through 10K.
It's been moved by Councilmember Gardner, seconded by,
Mayor,
Bergman.
second.
I'm sorry. Okay, seconded by Councilmember Lawson to approve item number 10A through 10K. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, the question before us is the adoption of the consent calendar, item number 10A through 10K. Call for the question.
Mayor Kaufman.
Mayor votes yes.
The motion passes to adopt the consent calendar.
Clerk, now please read the title to item number 11A.
Item 11A is Resolution 2022-170, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Aurora, Colorado, expressing the Aurora City Council's support of a memorandum of understanding by and among Colorado River Basin municipal and public water providers regarding water conservation actions.
Brief presentation by staff.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Marshall Brown, General Manager of Aurora Water. The item before you this evening is consideration to approve a memorandum of understanding related to water conservation. Water supplies in the West are severely stressed. We have a bit of a crisis on the Colorado River. Multiple entities got together and drafted a memorandum of understanding, including Aurora Water, Denver Water, Southern Nevada Water Authority, Colorado Springs Utilities, the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, and Pueblo Water. In the Memorandum of Understanding, there's a commitment to expand our conservation programs, increase water reuse and recycling programs, implement best practices and lessons learned, and collaborate with other water users in the Colorado River Basin to bring the supplies and the river into balance. And finally, introduce a program that reduces non-functional turf by 30% throughout the existing portions of our community. Most of these things Aurora Water has already implemented and is a leader in the industry. The new thing in this ordinance, or in this memorandum of understanding, is the reduction of non-functional turf within the existing areas of Aurora by 30%. We would commit to create a plan that does that. This is consistent with the Mayor's Water Conservation Ordinance that was brought forward recently and is up for final read tonight. This would be accomplished in cooperation with the Parks or Pros Department, and primarily achieved through areas like medians, tree lawns or curbside landscapes, common areas that are used just for aesthetic purposes. And the plan, there's not necessarily a date tied to the plan, but it would be brought forward likely mid-next year with details of how we would achieve the 30% reduction.
Thank you. Let me just recognize myself first that this is really leadership by the City of Aurora, and particularly our water department, in effectively not only that we will achieve the goals of the Memorandum of Understanding, but that we will list other water departments or water utilities to sign on to this, and that they will then in turn convince their respective elected bodies to agree to this. And I think it's a very effective way to show leadership and expand conservation, not just in the state of Colorado, but actually outside the state of Colorado as well.
Mayor?
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. I also echo that. I think, obviously it's important that we do everything possible to conserve water. I'm glad we're taking a leadership role with other water departments, but we recently had a water workshop, and it was illustrated that we represent the state in the upper basin, and yet the lower basin states like California and Arizona are not doing enough at all to even come up with a conservation plan. So I hope that Congress will urge the lower basin states to also sign on to water conservation, as they actually use more than we do. We don't even use our allotted amount. So thank you.
Further questions of staff?
Mayor?
Councilmember Zvonek.
Marshall, one of the questions I have is when we're talking about the challenges on the river, are there corresponding efforts to address agricultural use? Because I'm sure you're aware of this, we could turn off water in every state in the basin, every municipality, and it wouldn't address the issue. It's agriculture. So what efforts are being made, kind of parallel to what municipal governments are doing? Because again, I'm thankful that we're doing something. It's great that other municipal water providers are doing the same thing, but if agriculture doesn't do something, we're really not solving the problem.
Thank you, Councilman Zvonek. Very astute observation. This will only make a small dent in the overall usage. There are significant conversations and efforts going on with the agricultural community in these spaces. Part of what we're looking to achieve with this memorandum of understanding is to lead by example. Some of the comments that have come out have been from the agricultural community have been, hey, if the municipalities aren't serious about this and interested in being efficient in their spaces, why should we? So we think this is a huge step in the right direction to show them that we are serious about it, and remind them at the same time that we don't control most of the water. So we're willing to lead by example, but they're going to have to get on board if we're going to solve the deficit on the river. And it isn't, to the point earlier, just an upper basin problem. Most of the use is in the lower basin. We're excited that we have a couple of providers already who've agreed to sign on to this, and we've had recent conversations with a number of other entities in the lower basin as well who are indicating a willingness to sign on. So this is just a first step. It's a significant first step, but you are absolutely right. It will take other sectors.
And Mayor, if I can just follow
Please proceed.
So are there other actions that we can take to put pressure on, whether it's the state of Colorado or other states, to address the agricultural challenge that is really the driver of our challenges with water?
Yes, there are other actions. A lot of the negotiations right now going on with the state and across the basin, so the upper basin states and lower basin states, are getting into some of the details of what could be committed to. There are what are called demand management programs that have to do with efficiencies in agricultural spaces. So there's progress being made. It's been probably overdue and coming, but I think we'll see some commitments here in the near future that will be significant.
That's all.
Further questions of staff? I just want to say, I just think that the way Colorado law is written, water law is written, it doesn't incentivize efficiencies. But I think with a situation with the Colorado River being so stressed, that agriculture will be I would think that agriculture will be forced with cutbacks in their water allocation to do to hopefully upgrade, hopefully maybe line their ditches and do some drip irrigation or do more efficiency measures. But I think one thing that maybe you give an example the city of Aurora has done, where we purchased an agricultural water right and then leased back enough water to continue agricultural production while being able to consume the difference. for our residents.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And we have those programs in place throughout some of where we've acquired water rights. One other thing I should probably mention back to the agricultural point is with some of the leadership that Aurora has provided recently in the areas of conservation, in the areas of agricultural efficiencies and uses, we've been invited to go speak to the Colorado River District Board in about a month, and then the Northern Water Conservancy Board to agricultural districts about what we're doing, ideas, concepts, answer questions, and really engage more directly Aurora specifically in the agricultural discussions.
Further questions of staff?
Mayor?
Councilmember Coons.
So not so much a question as a comment, but we did have a number of water conservation district representatives come to the Water Education Colorado, one of the sessions, and so I will be giving a very brief synopsis of the various presentations that we received over the course of that program at the October 19th Water Policy Committee, if folks are interested.
Councilmember McConnell.
Thank you, Mayor, and I just wanted to compliment you, Marshall, and your staff on the work y'all have done. This is an issue that we're only going to really tackle through regional cooperation, and y'all are making us proud. So, good job.
Motion is in order.
Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Motion to approve 11A.
It's moved by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by
Oh, with a waiver of reconsideration.
with a waiver of reconsideration, and seconded by Councilmember Sundberg. Further discussion. Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of item number 11A. Call for the question.
Councilmember Sundberg. The motion passes to approve item 11A.
Will the clerk now please the title to item number 11B?
Item 11B is Resolution 2022-171, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Aurora, Colorado, authorizing the execution of the tax rebate agreement between the City of Aurora, Colorado and Communication Test Design, Inc.
Brief presentation by staff.
Thank you. The tax rebate agreement this evening is for Communication Test Design, Inc., or CTDI. They have an existing 232,000 square foot facility in Aurora already. They have been looking to expand with an additional 100,000 square foot facility at their site that they own. They would be adding 50 jobs to their existing jobs as well. The rebate would be 50% of on the sales and use taxes associated with the project. Most of it would be construction material use taxes. It's a 10-year agreement. There is a job schedule with a minimum salary requirement at the back of the agreement. It's a schedule we have with all our deals. And that's it. They've been looking at 2 other states for this expansion, and this tax rebate agreement would provide them the incentive to expand here in Aurora.
Questions of staff?
Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Is there a provision if they do not abide by their agreement to repay?
Yeah, all our agreements have clawbacks, and it's based on a percentage of the jobs relative to what they have to have based on the schedule in the agreement.
Thank you.
Further questions of staff?
Mayor.
Councilmember McConnell.
Thank you, sir. So in the agreement, I noted the average salary is going to be $41,130. And as of this morning, in Arapahoe County, you need to earn about $51,000 to afford a market rate one-bedroom apartment without being cost burdened. So I guess my question to y'all is, does that seem like a decent salary that's worthy of this kind of an incentive? Basically, I feel like this isn't even a housing wage.
You know, I don't think I think that would be out of my lane to discuss that salary, because this, you know, these incentive agreements by contract are brought to us by AADC. Yuri Dorlov is here with AADC. I don't know.
Yuri, would you mind taking that question?
is on. Council members, can you hear me?
Yep. I
Great.
think it's on. All right, there you go.
Good evening. So your question is about if the wages are supportive enough of the employees?
Yeah, is it the opinion of AEDC that this is a worthwhile incentive, given that this isn't even a housing wage?
So yeah, the average wages of the project, as reported, are about $41,000. And while they are below the average wage of the city of Aurora, Adams County, Arapahoe County, the company expressed that they hire a diverse contingent of employees and discussed training programs with the workforce development centers to continue training either before hiring and after hiring. So we do feel that with those programs and that unique ability to hire folks at entry-level points and progress them to more advanced positions, and there's a range of salaries that go up to well above $80,000. We do believe that the incentive is worthwhile.
All right, Mayor.
Please proceed.
Thank you, sir. What's the floor for a salary on this? Because the average is 41. What's the floor?
I'm sorry, the floor?
What is the floor? Yes.
The floor, I believe, is around $20 an hour, so just under that 40,000.
Okay. And to reiterate, you need around 2630, give or take, in Arapahoe County to afford a one-bedroom market rate apartment. So where are these folks going to live? I appreciate that the company wants to hire a diverse workforce, but, do we want people living out of their car?
Yeah, certainly not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mayor?
Let me recognize myself first, and that is, I just really fail to see how this warrants a taxpayer subsidy. We seem to be a dumping ground for low-wage jobs. And it was interesting, I went to, and I think Councilmember McConnell was there as well, we went to a groundbreaking for a Aurora Housing Authority development for low-wage jobs, I think in this, in the corridor where we have all this economic growth. So you've got, so we're giving subsidies to these businesses, but then we're having to come around and subsidize these jobs indefinitely. This is not economic development. Mayor Pro Tem.
Oh, I was just going to ask about the employees. They're not forced to work in Aurora, right? It's their choice to take that job at that wage with those benefits?
Correct.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Questions to staff?
Mayor,
I'm sorry.
I have discussion.
Councilmember Coombs.
Okay. So I think that whenever we're looking at wages and housing, we have to look at both sides of the equation. And it's incumbent on us as a council to support the kinds of policies that lead to housing that people can afford without subsidy and in our city with the jobs that we have available. I was originally concerned about, the wages that were being offered through this incentive. Some of the reasons that I've decided to support this are that I think we're frequently incentivizing folks to go into industries that are high skill and that only folks that have those high skills already can get. And I think we do need to give support to folks that are entering the workforce in low-wage jobs and ensure that they have that ability to progress in their work and in their careers. And so I think I would not support this but for the inclusion of the workforce and training aspect, that we're supporting for folks to move up and continue to earn more. But I also think that as a council, we have to rethink the types of development that we support with respect to housing. If we continue to support $500,000 and more expensive housing developments, then we're doing a disservice to the people that most need housing in our community.
Further questions of staff? The motion is in order.
Mayor,
Mayor Pro Tem.
motion to approve 11B.
It's moved by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by
Coombs?
Gardner.
second by Councilmember Gardner, to approve item number 11B. Further discussion? Seeing none, then the question before us is the adoption of item number 11B. Call for the question on 11B.
The motion passes to adopt Resolution 2022-171 with one no vote from Councilmember Marcano.
Will clerk now please read the title to item number 14A?
Mayor, do we want to do an announcement of the call-in?
Oh, I stand corrected. The time is now 7:21. We will stand in recess until 7:30 to give adequate time for an announcement of the call-in line. Council is now in recess.
Members of the public who would like to speak on an ordinance that have not already spoken to an operator, press *3 before the item is called by the clerk. For those who are watching on Channel 8, please call 855-695-3475 to be connected, and then press *3. Council is taking a short break. To allow any additional speakers to sign up, please be patient and stay on the line until the operator is able to take down your information.
The regular meeting of the Aurora City Council for the September 12, 2022 is called back into order. Will the clerk now please read the title to item number 14A?
2022-47, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Aurora, Colorado, amending sections of the city code pertaining to mandatory minimum sentences for retail theft in the Aurora Municipal Code to combat the increase in organized retail theft and related offenses. And Mayor, we do have one individual on the call-in line to speak.
Okay, Arnie, go ahead, you have 3 minutes.
Please proceed, I'm sorry.
Okay. Can I go now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. One reason to be opposed to this proposed ordinance is that a bipartisan group of 8 Colorado district attorneys last Thursday unveiled online data dashboards providing information to the public on the cases they prosecute, including the racial and economic status of defendants and the kinds of sentences handed down for them. The effort is part of a trend among more prosecutors nationally to provide more transparency to the public about how the criminal justice system works and also help them address any racial and economic disparities after first identifying them in the numbers. John Kellner, the top prosecutor in the 18th Judicial District in Aurora and metro area southern suburbs, said he became interested in exploring more prosecution data after discovering more white teens were being put into diversion programs than black teens, because the black teens tended to live in Aurora, where the municipal court did not provide a diversion option as the municipal courts in other parts of the district did. Denver District Attorney Beth McCann said prosecutors are swimming upstream against the fundamental mistrust of government and the need to work to earn the public's trust, especially from communities of color, after a tough-on-crime approach led to mass incarceration while not offering enough help to marginalized people. Mandatory minimum shackled judges, although sentencing is supposed to be carried out by a neutral judge, mandatory minimums upend the system by positioning one adversary, the prosecutor, as the ultimate decision maker, barring the judge from considering a person's history, culpability, or family responsibilities. I am particularly opposed to the mandatory minimum jail sentence of 10 days in the event a defendant fails to appear in court in a statement that the court shall not set aside or suspend this minimum sentences, because it's unconstitutional, because there are excuses that were recognized to fail to appear in court. One of the most common valid excuses amidst a court hearing is when you are not properly notified of the date within a reasonable amount of time, you have a health or family emergency, or your lawyer has withdrawn. So for these reasons, this bill, this proposed ordinance, is unconstitutional and not worthy to be put into effect. Thank you.
Is there further public invited to be heard on this issue?
No.
Very well. Brief presentation by staff.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Drinsky.
Councilmember Drinsky.
You guys can go first.
Okay.
You go first.
Yes, ma'am. Pete Schulte, Public Safety Client Manager for the City Attorney's Office. Councilmember Drinsky approached the office to assist her in drafting an ordinance targeting retail theft. And under our current code, we do not have a definition of retail theft. It's all combined under the theft ordinance that's in our code, which is under 94-74, which is theft. And what Councilmember Drinsky wanted to bring forward was to have a minimum jail sentence, just similar to the motor vehicle theft sentence that was passed back in June, of 3 days for any retail theft in the amount of $300 or more. And for the purposes of this section, retail theft is defined as theft under 94-74 of any goods or merchandise offered for sale by a business license under section 86-87, which is our retail businesses in the city of Aurora. And for those reasons, and again, just similar to the motor vehicle theft ordinance that was passed, this does have a 2-year sunset provision, so we can see what the results are of this ordinance if it passes.
Questions of staff?
Mayor.
Councilmember McConnell.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Pete.
I just have a quick question for you, and why is there not a fiscal note attached to this ordinance? I'm beginning to see this becoming a pattern with a lot of things that this council is bringing forward.
And so what I'll tell you about the fiscal note is we're already prosecuting these offenses under the theft standard. This is just putting a minimum sentence until we know what's going to qualify. I don't know if staff outside of my office could do a fiscal note because this is something new that we're defining that we're already prosecuting. It's just now going to be defined differently under retail theft, so we'll be able to track that a little bit better.
Okay, Mayor.
Councilmember McConnell.
Thank you, sir. So if I'm hearing you correctly, we don't currently track for thefts in the city the value of the amount stolen, nor the court costs, both on the public defender side, if it applies, or from the prosecution side. We don't know how much 3 days in jail will cost the city. One of those things.
So one of the differences here, the reason, again, and I'll let Councilmember Drinsky speak to this if she'd like to, the reason she chose the 3 days is because all of that time can be done at our Aurora detention facility, right? Anything beyond that will have to be at one of the county jails. So yes, there will be some cost, but that can, again, it's the balancing act of the policy discussion of whether or not the 3 days is worth, the penalty for the retail theft. But going back to the criminal side, of course they track how many cases of theft are prosecuted and the court costs and so forth. But until if this gets passed, then we'll be able to have the definition of retail theft under the code definition. We'll be able to track that specifically.
Okay, Mayor.
No, please proceed.
Thank you, sir. And maybe this is actually more of a question for, I guess, the city attorney's office or city management. But it seems troubling to me that we wouldn't be able to estimate a cost like this beforehand.
Yeah.
I think the parameters are pretty clear as to what we're trying to do here. So we should be able to look into a database of sorts or records and kind of make at least a ballpark estimate as to what that'll run.
I agree. I mean, I think that all the legislative bodies I've been in do estimates. And they just say, and they put the assumptions down with the estimates. So the assumptions may be off, but at least you have an idea of what the cost is. So in other words, if there's going to be X number of prosecutions and what is the cost of having somebody in the detention facility for 3 days, then that's the estimate of the fiscal note. But we really, at this point in the process, we really should have fiscal notes on all ordinances that are brought forward.
Mayor.
Councilmember Drinsky.
Sure. I find it interesting that on my ordinance, you bring forward, you echo Councilmember Marcano's sentiments about wanting a fiscal note, but on Councilmember Zvonik's, you didn't have a concern in the world, and you happily supported that one. I think that our jail, what's unique about our jail, and I've actually spent time volunteering in our jail has minimized costs right down to people in the Aurora City Jail, as long as their clothing is not lewd or provocative in nature. They even stay in their own clothes in our jail. So I think that costs are very minimized in our jail. But again, we are talking about the criminals or the alleged criminals, and this ordinance is about the victims, is about the business owners in this city, and I refuse to let this ordinance get hijacked to talk about the criminals. So I'm going to talk about the victims, and I'm going to talk about the business owners, and whatever the cost is for somebody to sit in our jail for 3 days, I guarantee you it's probably minimal. And if you haven't volunteered like I have for a shift in our jail, I suggest you do that. It's very eye-opening to spend a night there. So I suggest you do that. But what the cost is to the business owner, and remember, Mayor Kaufman, that is who we are representing on this body. So I am not going to let this ordinance be hijacked to continue to talk about the criminals in this city. The message has been made very clear, starting with the motor vehicle theft ordinance. You steal in this city, you steal anything. A car, you steal from a store, you commit any theft in this city, you are going to jail. That is the message. And for my colleagues that want to continue to talk about the criminals and side with the criminals, have at it.
Mayor?
Mayor?
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, well, I was going to make the exact same point that Councilmember Jurenski made. What is the fiscal impact to the small business owners, all the business owners actually, that have continued theft happening? Do I have the floor?
Please proceed.
Yeah, so what is the impact of them? We do represent our small businesses. Those businesses actually employ people that also depend on the livelihood of having that job. So I am completely in support of this. We're talking of 3-day jail sentence. It's not comparable to the motor vehicle theft of 60 days or 120 days. And don't steal. That's the message. Don't steal. And it's a $300 and above. So we're not talking about somebody stealing, milk or anything like that. We're talking a pretty hefty amount of theft.
Okay. And let me just say, I support the proposal, but I think that the point is a procedural point, and it's not just on this proposal, it's on all proposals that come forward. Ought to have a fiscal note, and that's a subject for another discussion because there is no definitive rule at this time that ordinance is brought forward to have a fiscal note, but they should. But I support the proposal. But speaking about fiscal notes is on every proposal that comes forward.
Mayor?
Councilmember Coombs.
So a couple things. Yes, there is a rule, actually. We just don't follow it. It's in the council rules that you should give the city management enough time to prepare a fiscal note on every proposal or a financial analysis. I don't remember the exact language, but it's there in our council rules, and we've just been choosing not to follow it. And Councilmember Marcano and I have brought forward and will be seeing at study session a proposal to clarify that rule and what we do if there's not a fiscal note attached, because it's already in our rules that we're just ignoring. So that's part of it. But this is also not asking for a fiscal note is not an argument in favor of criminals. It's in favor of making sure that we can actually afford the stuff that we're trying to bring forward. Because what happens if we just keep bringing forward proposals that we don't even know how much they're going to cost, which we keep doing, and sometimes it's cost millions of dollars, is that then we have to start cutting services to our residents. If we just keep saying, we'll just spend some money here and cut some taxes there, what we're going to end up with is no libraries, no pools, no rec centers. We're going to have to charge more for the other services that we offer. And that's the part that's not being looked at when we say, we just want to send a message, but we're not going to talk about how much it costs, is we are putting in jeopardy everything else that we offer to our citizens that they pay taxes for.
Further questions to staff?
Mayor, I have a question.
Councilmember Lawson.
So, Mr. Schulte, I have a question for you. So in this ordinance, I know that juveniles will be covered differently. It would be covered within the 18th judicial system, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So we're getting a restorative justice program established in the city of Aurora. Will that be an optional thing for those juveniles? Or is that dependent on, how would that be kind of figured into this? I know that they would be there, but if we're getting a restorative justice and a juvenile is getting caught in this from stealing in general, how could that be applicable to our restorative justice program that we're establishing in the city of Aurora?
So that's outside my realm. That would be with court administration. But yes, any programs that would apply for juveniles for any other offense would apply here. But this specific ordinance is only applying for those adults 18 and over that commit this theft in the city.
Further questions of staff? Seeing none, a motion is in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Jurenski.
I motion to approve item 14A.
Moved by Councilmember Jurenski, seconded by?
Sundberg.
Seconded by Councilmember Sundberg to approve item number 14A. Further discussion?
Mayor.
Councilmember Marcano.
Thank you, sir. And this question is for the sponsor. And my question is, have you considered a diversion program with electronic monitoring and work requirement or job training requirement instead of incarceration? And the reason I ask is because I think we all share the goal of wanting to hold people accountable, discourage bad behavior. But jail is where you send people if you want them to become better criminals, whether it's for 3 days or for 60 days or 120 days. Jail is literally the worst thing you can do to actually change behavior and to make a city safer. Diversion programs are much more effective, not just in terms of outcomes, but also in terms of cost. I spoke with the sheriff about this measure over the weekend, and while he will not be receiving people from this ordinance should it pass, he did mention that this is a waste of resources comparatively to what the county does. You could put folks on electronic monitoring, costs $35 a day, as opposed to, I think for the county, it's $120 a day. For us, if I'm not mistaken, it's about $75 a night, but that's not factoring in all of the costs necessarily. And you actually hold people to account by, it's not quite restorative justice, but it's by doing a service and actually becoming a more productive member of our community, as opposed to just putting them away for a couple days and they get back out and they're right back in the same situation they were in before you sent them in. Potentially even worse, they might lose their job if they had a job, if they were old enough to have a job at that time, which would probably send them further down that same path that I think we all agree we don't want people to follow. So is that ever a consideration?
No.
Councilmember Jurenski.
Why not?
No back and forth. Councilmember Jurenski, go ahead.
So my answer is no, and I believe it's time we start putting people in jail in this city, in the county, and in the state. And that's great that you reached out to the sheriff. He has nothing to do with this ordinance. This is 3 days in our municipal jail. So again, I'm not sure that you've done a shift in our jail. I would encourage you to see. The costs are absolutely minimal in our jail. Like I said, folks are even allowed to stay in their own clothing. Since COVID, we are doing our own laundry, even in-house, in our jail. So I would ask you, have you ever considered doing a shift in our jail?
Councilmember McConnell, do you wish to respond?
That seems completely unrelated to what we're actually discussing here.
Very well.
We're talking about 3 days in a
Motion is in order.
No,
Did we do a motion? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We did. Further discussion.
Mayor.
Councilmember Coombs.
I do wonder a little bit if restitution is part of the conversation and if restitution to the businesses would be more helpful. I actually had a constituent reach out to me and ask, how does jail help the victims? Wouldn't restitution to the businesses and paying restitution to the businesses be more helpful to them and more effective than jail?
Mayor.
Councilmember Jurenski.
So restitution would go along with this. It's not an either or. I mean, restitution would still be given out in their sentencing. They would still be ordered to pay restitution. That's always been a thing. This is just adding the 3-day mandatory minimum, but they would still have to pay restitution to any business that they committed theft from.
Further discussion. Seeing none, question before us is the adoption of item number 14A. Call for the question.
I can't vote. Literally can't vote. No.
The motion passes with 6 yes votes, 3 no votes from Councilmember Medina, Marcano, and Coombs.
Item number 15A and 15B both received a unanimous vote.
No, Mayor, we have to vote on these separately.
What's that?
We have to vote on these separately.
Okay, we do have to do them separately? Okay. Will the clerk please read the title to item number 15A?
Item 15A is Ordinance 2022-46, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Aurora, Colorado, enacting Section 138, 191 of the City Code pertaining to the use of turf and ornamental water features.
Brief presentation by staff.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of Council, this is the finalization of our water conservation ordinance that was created to be forward-looking. We talked a few minutes ago about the memorandum of understanding that's backward-looking. This ordinance actually controls where cool season turf can be put in new development. It does not allow it in medians, curbside landscapes, aesthetic lawns in front yards. It focuses on allowing functional turf. It also minimizes evaporative losses through ornamental water features and prohibits new golf courses moving forward. And so it focuses on water efficiency. As we grow, we cannot continue to grow as we have in the past. As we look forward, we have to become more water efficient, primarily in outdoor spaces. So that is this ordinance.
Questions of staff? Seeing none, a motion is in order.
Mayor.
I recognize myself. I move item number 15A. Mayor Pro Tem.
Second.
It's been moved by the mayor, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem to approve item number 15A. Discussion?
Mayor,
Mayor Pro Tem.
Marshall, can I still put a water feature in before this takes effect? Just kidding, just kidding.
Where are the ducks going to go?
Yeah.
I mean, further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of item number 15A. Call for the question.
The motion passes to adopt ordinance 2022-46.
Clerk, now please read the title to item number 15B.
Item 15B is ordinance 2022-48, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Aurora, Colorado, amending sections 14134 and 14135 of the City Code pertaining to keeping of ducks in residential areas.
Brief presentation by staff.
This is the duck ordinance that has been brought forward, and we just want to know if there's any questions for us by council.
Questions of staff? Seeing none, a motion is in order.
Mayor.
Councilmember McConnell.
Thank you, sir. Move to approve 15B.
It's been moved by Councilmember McConnell, seconded by
Coombs?
Councilmember Coombs to approve item number 15B. Discussion?
Mayor,
Councilmember Gardner.
thank you. I'd like to explain my no vote. I understand some of the answers that were given around the water usage, but from everything that I've read, the research that I've done, these animals will take water. And it's actually ironic that we are approving this directly after limiting water usage for turf and ornamental water features. I think it's such a contradictory message. At the end of the day, I don't care what animals people have on their property. That's not what this is about. To me, though, it's a contradictory message to say you can use them for ducks, apparently, but you can't use them for turf. And also, my other issue is, all we've heard consistently, at least I've heard in my almost 3 years on council, is we do not have enough code enforcement officers. And if you don't think there are going to be code enforcement issues with ducks, I have family members that have ducks. They live on 20 acres in Bennett. They don't live in the middle of Aurora. I can tell you there are going to be code enforcement issues. And I'm going to be happy to be able to say, well, I didn't vote to support it when those complaints come in.
Further discussion? Oh boy, did I do a motion?
Can I have,
Mayor Pro Tem.
oh, can I ask you a question?
Please proceed.
To that point, how do we enforce this, and do we have enough code enforcement officers?
So code enforcement and animal services are actually two separate functions. So animal service officers will be the ones that will respond to this. And I honestly don't know how many complaints to tell you we're going to get, because it's going to be based on how many people apply for the proper chicken permits, because they're going to be combined where you can have ducks and chickens together. Again, it's going to be if neighbors are calling in, because it's going to be the ducks are at large, if there's noise complaints, things like that. Again, I don't know how to tell you this is going to go until we do some of this, and there is going to be water used, because we're requiring a large amount of water to be there for the ducks during the April to October months.
And based on your experience with the chicken ordinance that was passed, did you get a lot of complaints on chickens?
In the beginning, but not, it phases out over time.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions to staff?
Mayor.
Councilmember McConnell.
Thank you, sir. The water required for the ducks, it seems to be, from what I read, it looks about the size of a kiddie pool. Is that accurate?
That will be sufficient, yes. Okay. And depending on how often they change it out, though, will be depending on how much water is used.
Sure. And we didn't ban the use of kiddie pools in our water ordinance, right?
Further questions of staff? Seeing none, further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of item number 15B. Call for the question.
Yes.
The motion passes with 6 yes votes, 3 no votes from Councilmember Garner, Drinsky, and Sundberg.
Reports by the mayor. First of all, I just had a great town meeting last Saturday at the North Branch Library. I thank Councilmember McConnell for being there. Great presentation by APD, particularly about the new DART program and the optimism about that program in terms of reducing crime. Now I want to read the acknowledgment that I failed to read at the beginning of the meeting. The City of Aurora acknowledges that we gather on the territories and ancestral homelands of the Cheyenne, Ute, Arapaho, and Lakota peoples. Past and present, we also recognize the 48 contemporary tribal nations that are historically tied to the lands that made up the state of Colorado. Indigenous peoples have remained committed to the stewardship of this land over many centuries. As these words of acknowledgement are spoken and heard, the ties that these nations have to their traditional homelands and to their vital place in the ecosystem are renewed and reaffirmed, and we are called to be better stewards of the land we inhabit as we continue to work to meet the needs of our entire community. Councilmember Murillo. She's not here. Councilmember Sundberg.
Thank you, Mayor. Town Hall coming up this Thursday. Chose my topic along the lines of the advice given at Thanksgiving. You don't talk about politics or religion. I'm taking on the controversial topic at my town hall of the plume from the Lowry Superfund site, PFAS in the water, and the longevity of Dad's landfill. I want to congratulate Aurora TV for winning 12 awards recently. I did visit the Aurora Animal Shelter a couple of weeks back with Mr. Youngblood, and at that point previously, the place was overflowing with animals that had been surrendered, especially dogs. But because of the publicity, their numbers were cut, I think, by more than half, so that was good news. I've attended a couple of great events recently, the African Leadership Group Gala, and a Shop with a Cause for the African American Youth Leadership Council. Spent the money in Castle Rock, but supported a good cause. That's all I have, sir.
Councilmember Medina.
Thank you, Mayor. My town hall last week was pretty well attended. We had well over 40 people attend. Talked about a lot of the traffic issues around Havana, safety in the community. Looking at ways for community to engage. They're kind of wanting to help where they can. We're going to start to do some community walks in the community, working with APD. And I will also be doing a police recruitment event in my ward. The time and date to be announced, as we're kind of framing that right now, so we can get more people to become police officers. I was at an event in Northwest Aurora over the weekend. Restoration Outreach Program had their first inaugural 5K at Montview Park. They had about 40 runners and walkers. They had a DJ, food trucks, and other community booths there. Police was there as well, so it was very well attended and good time there. Also in my ward in Center Park, we got together with neighborhoods from the Center Park area, and we came together. There was about 60 parents and youth, children that came together, and we had a glow stick capture the flag event in the park there, and for people to meet myself and also to meet each other in the community around just some fun events and looking out for each other. So that's all I've got. Thank you.
Councilmember Connell.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to start by thanking Representative Iman Judah and Aaron Pilniak with IntegraSure for attending our last Ward 4 meeting. It got a little excited and contentious at times, but I think it was really informative. So for any of y'all who missed that, you can actually catch the recording on facebook.com/Marcano for Aurora. I also wanted to thank my colleagues who signed up to come out with us to Houston next week, or sorry, later this week, my gosh, Wednesday, to go see how they have successfully housed 25,000 people over the last decade. I also want to thank Commissioner Nancy Jackson, Commissioner Ava Henry, Council members Sedebaka and Hines from Denver, and all of the staff from Arapahoe County, Adams County, and Denver who will be joining the Aurora delegation on this trip. I'm hopeful that it's a fruitful, journey, that we come back unified with a vision for what we can do if we work together to address this problem as a region. Our next Ward 4 meeting is going to be Thursday, October 13th at 6:30 p.m. at Colorado Early Colleges. So that's at 1400 South Abilene, if y'all have not been there yet. So we're going to actually be recapping the Houston mission, the San Antonio trip that we're taking a little later, as well as discussing transportation infrastructure changes that we can make to our city to improve safety along our collectors and arterials. So hope to see y'all there.
Councilmember Coombs.
Thank you, Mayor. So this month, we will not have a Ward 5 meeting because the usual Tuesday date would conflict with our council budget workshop. or budget presentation, rather, from our Citizens Advisory Budget Committee, Citizens Water Advisory Committee, and Housing and Community Development Committee. So that is next Tuesday at 5 p.m. for folks who are interested in hearing what our community boards are contributing regarding the budget and their recommendations on our budget for next year. At Dr. Cog, we had a special board meeting last week where we took public comment on changes to the MetroVision Regional Transportation Plan to comply with the greenhouse gas reduction goals set by the state. And we also looked at amendments to the Transportation Improvement Plan, which we will vote on. So we had an informational presentation that we'll vote on at our next meeting. And I also had the pleasure of attending the Arapahoe County Shareback ceremony for the funds that the city receives for open space and parks from the county sales tax to provide that funding. So thank you all. Have a great night.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I was able to attend the Colorado Remembers 9/11 event, which was wonderful last week. Also, I had my E470 board meeting, and we approved a mineral lease, also some contracts, and had a presentation from the IT department. Also, E470 recently had their annual fundraiser for their foundation and raised $63,000. I also attended the Opioid Region 9 Governance Committee, and I was elected as the vice chair. And then lastly, my ward council meeting is this Wednesday from 6 to 8 at Heritage Eagle Bend Clubhouse, and we will have actually a CPR demonstration, and then Aurora Fire Rescue will do presentations on really the breadth of everything that they do in the department and how they serve our community, and then my general updates. That's it.
Councilmember Lawson.
Thank you, Mayor. For my Pfizer update, Federal, State, and Intergovernmental Relations Committee update, the Senate and House have returned from their House August recesses and will have a busy several weeks heading into the midterm elections. The fiscal year ends on September 30th, and leadership is negotiating a CR to extend to early mid-December to avoid a government shutdown on October 1st. This will allow time for congressional appropriations committees to negotiate an omnibus appropriations bill. The city has 2 requests that are currently included in the House appropriations package and will make it into that final bill. The city's federal lobbyist was in town last week and met with council members and departments to provide an update on federal funding opportunities and priorities. We are meeting with our state delegation to build relationships and prepare for the 2023 legislative session. Departments have submitted their proposed state and federal priorities, and those are being reviewed by Pfizer and will be shared with the full council this fall. I want to thank everyone that attended the at-large August 25th meeting. It was a very insightful meeting, and I guess we'll be preparing for one probably before the end of the year. I also want to thank our city staff for the water workshop. We learned a lot at that workshop, and look forward to continuing learning about water as we're growing in the city of Aurora as well. And I think that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to say thank you to the Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce for hosting their annual meeting last week at the Gaylord Rockies. Had the opportunity to attend that, and congratulations to the incoming leadership team.
Councilmember Jurinski.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to say that I know we did a moment of silence in the beginning for the fallen officer in Arvada, but we didn't say his name. So I just want to say rest in peace to Dylan Backhoff of the Arvada Police Department, 27 years old. He'd been with the Arvada Police Department since 2019. That is something that would be a worst nightmare situation scenario for us here in Aurora. My heart goes out to the Arvada Police Department as well as their city council.
Councilmember Zvonek.
No report.
With seeing no further business before the Aurora City Council, meeting is adjourned.